Shabbat shalom to everybody. And really, I guess I could say welcome back to myself. I'll be talking about that in a second. But really, welcome back to anyone who traveled, especially to some people who were able to visit the Holy Land this summer. And some of them have come back already. And so we wish Baruch haba, great that you are able to come back to us. So if you send a rabbi on vacation, he or she will weave a sermon about that experience. And I believe Rabbi Stecker did that when he returned. And if the same rabbi goes on vacation every August, the sermons will coincide with the same Torah portions. And so they will have to be the similar themes, variations, so that they build on each other. But yes, no repetition. So today's theme, based on my recent vacation, is can North America be considered a promised land of sorts? Those who heard me planning my vacation knew that I had 3 weeks off and that my family really only had 2 weeks off. So I was left with 1 week alone, solo. And I embraced that. My first dream was to go to Scotland, but if you did any reading this summer in the newspapers, the passport service was a little bit delayed. And so even though I applied for my passport in March, it didn't arrive till July 31st. My travel date was going to be August 6th. I did not want to purchase a non-refundable ticket to Scotland without a passport. So I went to plan B, even though, yes, my passport did end up arriving in time. So what was my plan B? I was going to get into my van and go driving around what I would call the northeast quadrant of the US. Actually, I was able to add Canada. And I also love baseball. I enjoy playing golf and actually kayaking. So those were the 3 things that I did in my travels as I left Great Neck and for an 8-day travel, Baltimore through Maryland, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Detroit, and then made a loop. Actually, I love loops. Went up to Hamilton, Ontario, and then spent Shabbat there and drove through Niagara Falls back home. And then joined my family the next day in Jamestown, Rhode Island, where my in-laws have a house. And during that trip, actually, I was able, for my wife and I have our anniversary, we dipped into Cape Cod for a day. So over the 3 weeks, I went from Ann Arbor, Michigan, my alma mater, I took a stop there, to Sandwich, Massachusetts. Not quite the ends of the time zones, but pretty close. 675 miles straight east-west between Cape Cod and Michigan. And yes, it's only the small quadrant of this country. I guess I really have to add on to my vacation list, going farther west, seeing the prairies, seeing the mountains of the West. I haven't done that yet. But even this part is beautiful. We have the Appalachian Mountains. I guess if you're on the West, you can call them hills. You have amber waves of grain in Pennsylvania and Ohio. And we have the Great Lakes that really are a natural wonder of the world to have seas. Apparently, Lake Superior is actually, by definition, a sea, even though it is fresh water. Now, I didn't make it to Lake Superior. I only saw Erie and Ontario, but even those are part of the Great Lakes. And then we have Niagara Falls, which is just this big dip. And I learned about the geological formation of everything. That's kind of what I do. And yes, I got to see our cities that we have built as a country, that we have rejuvenated. All the baseball stadiums that I went to by, I guess, happenstance are in the urban centers, and all of them are doing different things to rehabilitate. Do they have more work to do? You bet you. To be driving through Baltimore and to see one block totally burnt out and with lots of signs for drug treatment and everything, and then to cross the street to see those same looking homes rebuilt with planters out and new stores open shows how much we have done, but also shows how much we have to go. As someone who reads Deuteronomy every single year and knows our American history about how the Puritans also read Deuteronomy and were fleeing persecution and came to this beautiful land, they ask themselves, is the fleeing of persecution from one place and coming to this beautiful land and reaping its produce, is that worthy of calling this a promised land? Of doing, and obviously not the same kind of ritual, but at least reading and recognizing that we bring the first fruits and say, God, look down from above and bless us and give thanks to all that God has given. My trip rekindled my love for this country and what it's accomplished. We also know how polarized this country is right now. I'm going to be talking about that more in Rosh Hashanah. But what I did discover is that we all live together. I could say on top of each other, but it doesn't sound right. But we live mixed together, right wing, left wing, rich and poor, the myriad of ethnicities that really make up our country, fans of all the various different sports teams. And we live together. The rich homes right on top of the poor homes. Saw that in Baltimore, saw that in rural Ohio. Going to play golf on the low end of the golf course are some older working class homes. On the upper end of the golf course are the mansions that people have. We live on top of each other. And actually, even in the baseball stadiums, we all love baseball, at least the ones who do. And you had the fans talking to each other, going to the same hotels with each other, and no one asked what their political affiliation is. And yes, there were all sorts of ethnicities all coming together at this American pastime. And so this week's Torah portion, the theme is that we are interconnected and we need to have gratitude. We are settling the 12 tribes in the land of Israel, not one tribe, 12 tribes. And they are supposed to come together once a year, actually 3 times a year. But when it comes to the first fruits, they're supposed to come together and give the first fruits to one place where they feel God's presence the most. Now, we don't have a temple anymore, and we have our different promised land. But if we want, again, to use metaphors, we can say that this country is a promised land of sorts. Just hold on to the sorts, but at least it is a promised land, a place where we can come together and recognizing that when we work together, history has shown that's when we succeed the most, not when we fight with one another. To remember all of the times that there has been persecution because one group hated the other group. I'm not ignoring the history of that here in America with Native Americans, with African Americans and slavery. I know it's there. I'm not ignoring it. I'm not being Pollyanna. But we also know what the secret to success is. And the secret to success is to be as unified as possible. Not going to describe how to do that right now. It'll give you 2 weeks to think about it. But I do encourage you to really, even if it's not, even on Long Island, to go and explore this beautiful country of ours on this Labor Day weekend or whenever, but the weather is gorgeous right now. See the nature, see the gifts that have been given to us from above, but also engage with the people. See the people, see how different we are, but really how we're all Americans together. Shabbat Shalom.